Okay, so today we are going to quickly talk about things that I am doing to plan for this upcoming year. I know it is July. I know some people, the last thing they want to think about right now is homeschool, but we are a year-round homeschooling family. My kids are currently off because we just finished testing, and they will be off most likely until about Wednesday, and I think we're going to start slowly integrating back into our subjects by the end of the week. So I'm going to be talking about what I am going to be doing this week, what I have already started doing, what I have already been doing, and all the things to get ready for the upcoming school year. Let's go ahead and jump into the video and we're going to talk about it. Hi, my name is Amanda from Learning to Love Well, and this is a channel all about homeschool from a biblical worldview. We talk about the practical, we talk about biblical encouragement, we talk about the reason why behind we do what we do, and today is not really going to be any different. Sometimes I kind of skew off the topic, but today we are definitely going to be sticking to that topic. It's a little lighter outside, as you can tell. I'm not filming super late tonight, which is nice, and yes, so we're actually just going to hop into it, and I'm going to tell you the scripture behind this whole video, and it is Proverbs 21:5, and it's the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. Now, when we hear this verse, we oftentimes think about maybe like planting a garden, which is so true. Planning your garden out before you plant is a very good way for you to have a successful garden, but also it also applies to homeschool. It also applies to your finances. It also applies to your walk with the Lord, about how, it's the everyday disciplines that can drive you either closer to the Lord or further from the Lord. And I know some people, might disagree with me and be like, no, it should be very spontaneous and all that thing. If I plan to read my Bible every morning and I get up and I read my Bible and I have time with the Lord and I make time for the Lord, I will have time for the Lord. If I only plan to have time with the Lord whenever, just on whims and stuff like that, life will get in the way. And so And sometimes, you don't feel like getting up and doing anything. You want to just lay around in bed and scroll on Facebook or whatever. But because you carve out certain times for certain things, it helps you so much to get where you want to go. You're not going to know the Bible unless you read the Bible. You're not going to homeschool well unless you plan for success. And I'm not talking about you can plan and mitigate every single thing that's going to happen. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that prayerfully planning, taking those steps to make things easier for yourself in the upcoming year to way better results than just trying to throw it all together last minute and try to just make it work. Now, obviously, there's curriculums that have a lot of plans for you laid out, and if you're just getting a box set, they kind of do a lot of the work for you. But if you're like me and you have multiple curriculums from different sources, or even if you just have that one, but you're like, man, last year we didn't do any field trips and I want to do more field trips, or last year we didn't do any projects and I want to do more projects, or last year I wanted to get outside more and do more with the kids outside, but we just didn't get to it. So planning it will get you from where you are now to where you want to go. And I'm not saying that it always goes to plan. Obviously, things come up. We live in a fallen world, such as life. But if we're prayerfully planning things with the Lord, if we're praying about it, if we're asking for God's provision on these things, and we are waiting on the Lord and seeing how God lines it up, and we're making plans and we're going ahead, that is how we plan. I'm not talking about self-help kind of planning. I'm talking about literally planning for success. It's no different in homeschool. And so because of that, these are the things that I'm going to be doing. I'm not saying that your list has to look like my list. Your list might look completely different from my list, but I'm in a different season in homeschool than some of you are. And so I actually have a cute little sheet where I sat there and planned out what I was going to talk about for the video. And so this is what I plan on doing, and I'll actually show you some of it in the video. So one of the things that I am doing this year to prepare for my children, or right now for preparing for the next year for my children, is totes. Okay, so I haven't figured out yet if I'm going to keep the totes that I have and just reuse them and buy one more tote for my fourth kid, or if I am going to switch it up and get rolly carts. If you've used the Homeschool rolly carts and you either have a good review or a bad review or whatever kind of review you have, put it in the comments below, please, because I would really like to get something that would fit in my homeschool closet that we could wheel out. But I also don't want to get it if they don't work very, very well, because they are kind of expensive. They're like $30 to like $25, $30 a piece. And, you know, for my family, that's like 120 bucks. So I would prefer not to get them if they are not of good quality. And if you have a brand that you're like, these things worked well, like excellent, please drop a comment below. So yes, as far as the carts go, or I'm going to stay with the totes. But what I have done is I have taken the books from last year that some of them are still finishing up, and I have put their next book that they are going to funnel into right behind it. So old books in front, new books in the back, so that they can quickly grab their totes out, and there will be no more sorting homeschool books in the morning. When our homeschool book was not finished, or when our homeschool closet was not finished, and I'll actually give you a snapshot of what that looks like now. Some of our books got stacked at the end of the day, which is fine. Everything's a season, right? But now we have beautiful shelves in there that my husband has created for us. And so at the very bottom, we have the totes, and those totes are movable out and in for depending on which child has it. And so one of the first things I have already done, so this is on the done side of it, is, unless I switch to carts, is organize them in such a way that each child has their own section, and then our together readers have their own section, so they all come out at once, so they all go back together at the end of the day with no sorting necessary. We're taking out that time and kind of cutting that time in half. So I'm buying time then for doing it now. Another thing that I just worked on before this video actually was starting to make spreadsheets. Now I have my son who is going into 9th grade. And in 9th grade, we are starting to have to keep transcripts. I know this. And so one of the things that I went ahead and did was, for each of his subject, I made a different page. I put one column, and it's not like the best spreadsheet in the world, but for the time being, this is what the plan is. So what I plan on doing is I have a column for tests, homework, quizzes, projects, and finals. And each of them are going to be weighted out differently. There are suggested weighting guides for grades in a lot of the books that my child's doing. And so I will be going through them and implementing the suggested weighted grades for those things, and then putting them into his grade book to keep up with them throughout the year. Because at the end of the year, I do have to start making a formal transcript for him, because he would like to do a dual enrollment program, and we have looked into that. And so the best way for us to do that is to make sure we have all our ducks in the row from the very beginning, and making sure that he has everything that he needs, so that when he would like to submit a transcript to do dual enrollment, he has that opportunity to do so. And so because of that, the spreadsheets and getting grade books together for my child so that the transcripts are orderly and ready to go, that is actually, I pretty much got it completed. I'm just going to start putting in the actual like page numbers and stuff like that have been completed, because he did start jump starting on some of it because he's a little like his mom like that. The next thing that we are going to be doing is making sure we have all necessary school supplies. So the other day I had organized the homeschool closet. So the step 2, or I guess the pre-step to that, is figuring out what I already had. And when I reorganized the homeschool closet, because my husband made the shelves, I was able to pull everything out and clean everything. And it took like 2 days, but praise God, it's done. And organize the books to where I know what we have now, I know what we don't have, and then organize the school supplies and label the school supply cabinet. And so I do know what we have, although I did just stick pins where they shouldn't be, but I didn't have a spot for like push pins. We don't carry that many push pins, but that's okay. But yes, I did go ahead and do that and put that into the homeschool closet so that they all have their place. I did see that we were low on crayons, and the other day I walked into Walmart and they had like Crayola crayons for like 50 cents. So I went ahead and picked up 4 boxes for $2 and went ahead and put 2 of the boxes in our coloring supply kit, because I still have a child in 1st grade now. So coloring supplies still are very much necessary at that age group. And I want to make sure that we have all of those on hand so that when we jump back in to our curriculums, I'm not going to be scrambling to find anything. I do think we need some more colored pencils and markers, but we don't use as much of those at the younger age, but we definitely do use them in the crayons in the younger ages. So I went ahead and picked those up. So definitely start looking at any kind of supplies that you might need to pick up. I saw that I need some newer paints, but I think my son already has a lot of paints. So I'm not sure if he'll let us use them for the projects, but I'm sure he will. He has before, so that's an idea. Another thing that I will be starting to work on, Lord willing, is prayerfully talking about a new schedule. So now I have one child who will be doing a lot of work solo because of the fact that we still have younger grades that we do together subjects. He will still be joining us with some of the together subjects, but because now his science and his geography are going to be separate subjects that he is doing by himself, we are going to be more split up than we have before. So working on a schedule that will work for our kids and still bring us together as a family on certain subjects is what I will be prayerfully working on next. It's kind of sad, actually, that he's just kind of gonna take off first thing in the morning and on some of the stuff and kind of work on it. It is sad. I mean, this is a new stage. By God's grace, it is a new stage. But, you know, as a mom, I think sometimes we are just kind of like, man, it's a new stage. Like, it's not like, woohoo! Like, I think sometimes it's bittersweet. You love the children that you're seeing grow up, and you see, like, I see this child becoming, like, a good, honorable, God-honoring man, and I love that. But at the same breath, I'm like, that was my baby. That was the kid who would ask for snacks and have like spaghetti sauce. Sorry, I just threw something at my face, but spaghetti sauce all over his face. And, my curly haired little baby. And I don't know. Maybe all moms go through this stage, or maybe I'm just, weird, but I'm working on it. Okay, so yes, so prayerfully setting up a new schedule is definitely on the to-do list. I have listed and posted my previous schedule where we would do our together subjects, and then we would break off and do our separate core subjects afterwards. Like, we would break up and do our separate core subjects, but now it's going to be a little different. I think I will be probably, Lord willing, meeting with him after devotion and setting him up for the day, and then kind of releasing him except for the days that he's working with us. So that's kind of the way that looks right now. And so Lord willing, we'll see how that happens. Okay, the next thing that I will probably be planning is prayerfully talking to God about my readers list. Sometimes I do this kind of spur of the moment because I do have a lot of readers on hand, and I'll just be prayerfully like, hey, Lord, I don't know what to do next. And it's kind of cool how God will put books in your way, for them to read, and then how they end up becoming applicable outside. I remember reading through Men of God, Men of Science. I just asked the Lord, like, okay, Lord, what do I need to do next? And that book popped into mind, and I ended up talking to someone about it while we were still going through it at Costco, because there was a college student who was struggling with a professor who was telling her how science and God were inconsistent with each other. And it was so funny because we were literally reading about how most of our great scientific discoveries actually came from Bible-believing Christians because they believed the Bible. And so it ended up being a really cool story about how our readers ended up matching up with real life, and just how awesome God is to do those kinds of things. And if you're prayerful about it, God will continue to make even what you're doing in homeschool as a way to support or encourage the people in your community. And yeah, it was just a really cool, beautiful moment where it's just like, pray about the things that you're doing and teaching your kids, and how those things can relate to other things, and how God will use all things for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And so, yeah, prayerfully talk to God about your readers, things that you should purchase. I know I have purchased a lot of new books for this year. We are still on the Hem Writers one, and we will finish that one up. And we are reading Lost Nature Science in the morning, and as soon as those kind of go away, we will be seeing what else. Now, I already have like a huge stack of books that I've already purchased, and I'm just going to be prayerful about what we're doing next. Okay, so one other thing that I forgot to mention, this is actually like, I just stopped filming and then I went and filmed something else, and then I was like, oh, this thought came to mind and I need to say it. The other thing that I will be doing is printing out new attendance school records for the upcoming school year. Now, you can just Google North Carolina attendance records or attendant North Carolina Homeschool Attendance Record, and they actually give you a sheet that will pop up. I can actually link it down below in this video, and that way it is pretty easy. And what I do is go ahead and block off the weekends and any time that I know I'll be giving them off. Like, for example, Christmas week, Lord willing, we'll be off that week, or like Easter week, I will block off that time. And that just goes ahead and shows the kids when they will be off and when they're in. And it just helps us stay state compliant, because in our school, or in our state, we are required to do 9 months of the year homeschooling. And so that helps us to stay compliant and stay with the record keeping, so that we don't have to worry about ever being audited or anything else. And it keeps us subject to governing authorities. So with that being said, yes, we'll start with my last thing I'm planning for. Okay, so the last one is actually really fun for me. It's planning my kids' back to school boxes. If you have been on this channel for an extended period of time, you know that every year I do a back to school box. Now, this year is going to probably look a little different because, like I said, I've got a high schooler, but my kids have become to love the tradition of getting a back to school box. It is like their little treat, because we don't do a whole lot of back to school shopping, because like we keep a lot of things on hand. And like I said, I buy things when they go on clearance and stuff like that. So we're not having to pick up so many supplies, because a lot of times we don't need that much of a refresh of supplies right before school starts. But then they kind of miss out on that back to school shopping like I got to do with my mom, you know, whenever I was growing up. And it's kind of the way that we get to surprise our kids with little goodies and things that can help them along the way. And it's fun for me. I get to treat my kids. You know, I get to do stuff that makes them feel loved and seen and heard, and buy things that are individual according to their needs. We don't spend like huge, numerous amounts of money on this, but you know, it's just a way for me to show each individual child that I see them. I know what they like, that they're important to me. The things that they love are important to me, that they're known by me and their dad, and that it just gives them the opportunity to have that individual kind of set up, I guess. And it's fun how excited and how much they look forward to it every year. And so I get to start planning that, which is a super big treat for me, because every time I can do something for my children and make them know how much I love them and care about them, and how much they mean to me, and how much they're not just another child in the family. Like, every single one of them have unique God-given personalities, and I want to see that flourish and just bloom, is one of those things that just makes me super happy about being able to be a stay-at-home mom who homeschools. Is I get to know them individually, their personalities, and get to know who they are, and watch them grow. And also, every once in a while, get to treat them to things that are very much individual to themselves. And so because of that, I get to start planning my back to school boxes. And so that is the planning that I shall be doing, Lord willing, this year, or this next week, actually. And yeah, and then we get to start back into homeschool. So by the time you're seeing this, we'll probably be already back in homeschool. But still, I hope you join me, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful night. God bless, and have a great night.